What if the ancient answers you've been searching for weren't in some futuristic book or motivational seminar, but buried in the dirt-streaked scrolls of Roman times? What if the key to becoming a better man in 2025 was whispered from the lips of emperors, exiled philosophers, and soldiers who faced death with unflinching eyes? This isn't just about being calm under pressure. It's about something far more dangerous, far more powerful. It's about mastering chaos, not controlling the world around you, but conquering the battlefield within. Welcome to the philosophy that forged warriors, kings, and revolutionaries. Welcome to the Stoic Code and the 9 timeless principles every man needs today more than ever. But before we go deeper, let's ask something uncomfortable. Why are so many men in 2025 drowning in quiet desperation? Anxiety cloaked in ambition, confidence replaced by curated self-image, discipline traded for dopamine hits. We've built skyscrapers with glass walls but crumbled silently inside them. This is not a crisis of intelligence or opportunity. It's a crisis of resilience of the soul. And that's why this ancient philosophy, forged in brutal eras of war and collapse, speaks louder today than ever. Because when society trembles, only the man with a still heart and a sharpened mind can stand tall. So let's dig into the first of the 9 Stoic truths. Ones that don't just inspire, they transform. It begins not with strength, but with control. Not control over others, but over yourself. Picture Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, emperor of Rome, wrapped in his cloak at night, whispering words to himself in his journal. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. These are not the words of a man trying to impress others. These are survival instructions. In a world filled with betrayals, plagues, and war, he learned the first law of Stoicism. You do not control what happens, only how you respond. Imagine living that way today. A man loses his job, but doesn't lose himself. His girlfriend leaves, but his peace remains. A stranger insults him, but his character doesn't flinch. In 2025, when outrage is a currency and victimhood a trend, the man who walks in calm silence becomes a weapon. But that leads us into something more brutal, something harder. The second principle, amor fati. Love your fate. Don't just endure hardship. Embrace it like an old friend. This isn't positive thinking, this is savage acceptance. Epictetus was a crippled slave. Seneca was exiled and ordered to commit suicide. Marcus Aurelius buried multiple children, and yet they spoke the same language. That pain, injustice, and heartbreak are not punishments. They are training. They are what forge you. And if you cannot love what fate delivers, you cannot truly live. So here's a thought. The next time life shoves you to your knees, what if you didn't ask why me, but instead whispered, train me. Now take a breath, because we're only getting started. The third Stoic edge is perhaps the most terrifying. Memento mori. Remember, you will die. To most, this sounds like despair. But to the Stoic, it is freedom. Look around, how many men waste decades waiting to feel ready? Waiting for the right moment to act, to speak, to love, to build? But the Stoic walks with death beside him, not in fear, but in urgency. Because knowing the clock is ticking makes every breath sacred. In 2025, where distractions rule and algorithms numb the soul, the man who remembers death is the man who truly lives. That message alone should make you sit straighter. What if today was your last day? Would your choices look the same? And now, the fourth. This one burns like acid through illusion. It's the principle of dichotomy of control, a fancy phrase, but it hides a devastating truth. Most of what you obsess over is out of your hands. Your reputation, your partner's loyalty, your boss's mood, the weather, the algorithm, your past. All out of your hands. You can only control your thoughts, your actions, your integrity, nothing else. So why bleed for what was never yours to command? The Stoic man is like a ship's captain in a storm. He cannot change the wind, but he can adjust the sails. And in 2025, when global chaos, cancel culture, and constant surveillance try to choke your focus, this principle becomes your shield. Let go of what you can't steer. Double down on what you can. The fifth Stoic code isn't soft, it's merciless. It tells you this: comfort is killing you. You were not built for couches and convenience. You were made to sweat, bleed, endure. Seneca slept on the floor and practiced poverty. Why? So if fortune ever left him, he'd still stand. Ask yourself, how often do you seek discomfort? When was the last time you pushed your limits not because you had to, but because you chose to? In a world where comfort is a drug, hardship becomes your superpower. Train cold, rise early, delay pleasure, not to prove a point but to become unbreakable. The Stoic man chooses the hard path because it shapes him into steel. And just as steel is forged by fire, so too must a man be forged by silence. That leads us to the sixth principle. Master your emotions or be mastered by them. This isn't about suppressing what you feel, it's about disciplining how you act. In the ancient Stoic texts, anger is a wildfire, lust is a chain, fear is a fog. But wisdom is the man who sees these forces coming and remains unmoved. It's not that he doesn't feel, it's that he isn't ruled by feeling. Picture a man in 2025 who scrolls through outrage, temptation, and fear-bait headlines, but feels no pull. He doesn't react. He responds. That's the Stoic's edge. Emotional control isn't repression, it's power. And if you're still with me, if your blood's heating and your spine straightening, then you're ready for what comes next. Because the seventh Stoic principle may be the one that separates boys from men, virtue over validation. Today men are raised to be liked, not respected, trained to conform, not to lead. But Stoicism laughs at applause. It asks, are you good or are you liked? There's a difference. The Stoic does the right thing, not the popular thing. He tells the truth even when it costs him. He doesn't bend for approval, because his approval comes from within. In a time when likes, followers, and viral fame seduce the soul, the Stoic walks another road. One paved not with praise but with principle. Now we come to the eighth Stoic principle. A truth so subtle yet so revolutionary, it could change the way you live every single day. Live by reason, not reaction. In a society engineered to provoke you, through headlines, through social feeds, through passive aggression and cheap outrage, the man who remains rational becomes rare, almost dangerous. Think of a fire that doesn't flare up when struck, a sea that doesn't rise when the moon calls. That's the Stoic mindset. But it's not about being cold, it's about being deliberate. When someone insults you, you pause. When things go wrong, you don't spiral. You assess, you calculate, you adapt. In 2025, where people are chained to their triggers, the Stoic is free. He doesn't just survive chaos, he studies it. And then he makes his move. But what good is reason without responsibility? What good is strength without service? That's why the final Stoic principle isn't just about the self. It's about something bigger. Marcus Aurelius said, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." In other words, your life is not your own. You are part of something, a family, a nation, a civilization. And a Stoic man carries this burden with silent pride. He does not boast of duty. He just fulfills it. He is the rock others lean on, the calm during panic, the spine when others fold. In 2025, where men are encouraged to chase comfort and abandon responsibility, this principle becomes radical. The Stoic understands, service isn't submission, it's supremacy over the ego. It's choosing what is right, even when no one sees. Now step back for a moment. Look at these 9 truths, not as rules, but as weapons. Each one forged in blood, in loss, in the lonely fire of self-mastery. These weren't crafted by men on retreat. They were carved out in the prisons of exile, in the marble halls of collapsing empires, on the battlefields of dying republics. And yet they speak to us now, because we are back in an age of noise, fear, vanity, and distraction. And only those who remember to be liked, he lives to be worthy. He doesn't avoid death, he remembers it. He doesn't wait for peace, he creates it in his mind. He doesn't follow the crowd, he leads himself. He doesn't seek the easy path, he chooses the meaningful one. And when he falls, because even the Stoic man will fall, he Ask yourself, what do I stand on when all of that burns? What is left when no one is watching? That answer, whatever it is the core of your manhood. And that's where Stoicism begins. You don't need to become a monk or quote Latin, you need to remember what you were built for. And then live like it every day, especially when it's hard, especially when it hurts, because no one's coming to save you. But that's the beauty of it. You don't need saving, you just need reminding of who you already are, of what you're truly capable of. And the Stoics, they've been whispering it all along.